Hi, I'm Jeremy McGovern. I'm the publisher of American Farriers Journal. I want to welcome you to this online session. We're calling this From the Pages of American Farriers Journal, and we're focusing on the July-August 2021 issue. And the man joining me is Tommy Boudreau. Hi, Tommy.
Hello, everybody.
I'm hoping you guys read the article with Tommy. I think one of the criticisms we have as a magazine is we may only show that snapshot of the day, and it's sometimes curiosity wants to find out what happened with this horse, or maybe what are some other things that we didn't talk to the subject about. And Tommy was very generous in giving me his time for a day back a couple months ago, and boy, we had a real good time. And we got his crew with him too. So we may have some guests on here like the old Johnny Carson show. But I really want to encourage everybody joining us. This is a good opportunity for you to ask questions and find out a little bit more about Tommy and his practice and some of the horses he worked with that day. So let's get into it, Tommy. And
Sure.
maybe first, tell us a little bit about your area there in Mineral Wells. It's about an hour and a half west of Dallas-Fort Worth Airport. Tell us about what the horses are like there and what kind of business someone could set up.
Well, where we are, we're about an hour west of Fort Worth, and we're in Palapina County. And the closer county into the east is Parker County, Texas. And Parker County is the most heavily horse populated county in the state of Texas. And it may be in the state of Texas, and the two other places that have as many horses as we do in the country would be Los Angeles, California, and Ocala, Florida. Those are two other very heavily horse populated areas. To my knowledge, there's not any more horses anywhere that's concentrated as it is right around here, anywhere else in the country except these three areas. And I would say the world that I'm in is mainly Western performance horses. There are a lot of English horses when you get closer into the Metroplex. Dallas and Fort Worth, it's huge. The dressage and English horses, jumpers and such, that it's a huge industry over there. I'm not involved in much of that personally, but there's in my area. I mean, we from where I live, just north of Mineral Wells, we drive. Oh man, like today we went to 4 different places, and we probably put no more than 30 miles on the shoeing rig. They're all just, everything's right around here. Tomorrow when I leave out, I'll be going 10 minutes up the road, and we'll spend 3 days in that barn up there. And that'd be cutting horses we work on tomorrow, and we actually worked on today. We worked on a few team roping horses, and cutting horses is what we worked on today as well. And I would say cutting horses is probably high-end cutting horses would probably be a good maybe 60% of my business, and then reined cow horses would probably be another 15 or 20% of my business, and then rodeo horses would probably fall in there and be probably the rest of it. And to tell you the truth, I've even got still a few ranchers that I shoe for out in Western Palapina County that I've shot horses for many years, and they're all friends as well. But there's a big discipline right around here, and a lot of horses, and I'm very blessed to be a big part of it all.
Yeah, and let me just say for everybody joining us, if you want to submit your questions, feel free to type those in to the Q&A field or the chat field. Now, you mentioned how close your business is to your home, and people who've read the article will remember that you started off in the oil industry, and then downturn in that led you to be full-time on horseshoeing.
Correct.
Was it always that way where you could keep everything concentrated close at home, or did you have to drive more? Or is this something intentional you built for your business?
Well, good question, Jeremy. I actually, back in high school, when I was in high school, I actually got my hardship license when I was 15. I don't think it would be as easy to get a hardship license today as it was back then, because I had two parents that were working and we had a good income, but I wanted to shoe horses. So when I was 15, I drove my little pickup that I had around to some neighbors' places and stuff and shod their horses without a license with the tools in the back of my truck. And my parents took me down and helped me get my hardship license when I was 15. I think I was a sophomore in high school then, in grade 10, and shod horses here and around, just kind of in my area after school, and through my senior year. And when I got out of school, the oil field was real strong, and I thought, okay, I gotta grow up and get a real job here and quit shoeing horses. So anyway, we went in the trucking business. It was very strong. I had a really good, solid oil field trucking business for about 6 years. And when the oil field started to slow down around here, I thought, and by that time I even had a family started. I was married and had two small children. And I told my wife, I said, well, I'm just going to kind of hang my shingle out here and advertise a little bit in the feed stores and see if maybe I can get a few horses to shoe while things are, while the oil field's slow. So I just kind of parked my trucks, just waiting for some phone calls to get some runs put together. And gee, I started shoeing horses, and the sheriff's posse members and the ranchers and a few of the show people, they started calling me like, hey, yeah, can you come shoe some horses for me? And Jeremy, I'd say within 2 weeks, my phone was ringing off the wall. And I made a decision right then. I talked to my wife about it. We decided we were going to sell the trucks, and then I was going to just do this full time. And it wasn't long after that I met John Moreno, and but I did. People started calling, and I was able to just start shoeing a few horses around here, and got lucky enough to shoe some horses for actually one of my oil field clients had a horse place here in Mineral Wells. Actually, they were just on the east side of Mineral Wells, and they had some cutting horses back in the early days. That would have been in 1982. And in the article, you mentioned a horse called Brink's Royal Hickory. And I was lucky enough to shoe that horse for them. And that horse wound up being reserve champion in the 1982 NCHA Futurity that year as a 3-year-old. And so people were like, hey, we know that horse, and we want to know a little bit more about the team that shod that horse. And so that horse helped put me on the map. I mean, because the trainer, who was Jerry Key there at the time, and Bill Grant owned that horse. And they told their friends, yeah, Tommy Boudreau is part of our team. He shoes all our horses and does a good job. And a few of the other cutting horse people around in the area, they called me. And back then, there wasn't as many horses right around here at that time, even though all the big major shows were still at the Will Rogers Coliseum. And over here, we use the term in town. If the horses are going to town, they're going to the Will Rogers Coliseum to show. And back then, there wasn't as many horses around here. So, I took a week out of the 6 weeks, and I drove down to Brenham, and I shot horses down there. I was flying some out to Ruidoso during the meet and shoeing horses out there, some race horses. And I had a couple barns in Oklahoma, and I was traveling quite a bit. But with the Will Rogers Coliseum, the show people decided that instead of living far away, they started buying land in Parker and Palo Pinto County. The horse ranches did, because it was so close to Fort Worth for all the major shows that were going on. So therefore, I would say by the late 1980s, oh man, there was like Oxbow Ranch here. There was some Burke's Triple B. Then Jerry Durant turned that into what is now the Silverado. And there were several trainers that moved in around here. Gabby Bryant had Bryant quarter horses. He moved his whole operation here from Raleigh, North Carolina. And I could go on and on. And the people started moving in, and it was all real concentrated. And me and one other guy were really the only two farriers right around here. And then other guys started moving in too. And that was kind of the beginning of it all. And then I didn't have to fly around or drive anywhere for a week after that. And I would say the last 30 years, it's pretty much just all been right around here for me. And I was kind of in on the ground floor of the whole thing as it all unfolded. So, hey, here I am today, shoeing all these horses right in my backyard. So pretty blessed.
That's an interesting thing. Sometimes, farriers will specialize into a discipline, out of interest, and they're still traveling. In a way, you were drawn to this discipline, or primarily shoeing a lot of cunning horses just because of proximity.
Proximity, it's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was glad you brought up John Moreno. And, a lot of people recognize the name either from the Anvil, certainly being a Hall of Famer, Anvil 21 member, huge impact on the industry. And he was, I think, if people read the article, will know he was a big turning point for your career.
Yes, sir. Yeah, he sure was. When, right when things were unfolding, that would have been in about 81 or 82 for me. When things were unfolding, John moved down here from New Jersey and started across the Anvil Farrier Supply and a shoeing practice of his own. Him and his wife, Kathy, ran across the Anvil Farrier Supply. And some of the local farriers here told me, they said, hey, man, up in Peaster, there's a good supply store up there. Because before that, I was buying all my stuff at Davidson's Hardware in Mineral Wells. They sold shoes and nails and just a small array of stuff. But they had Nicholson rasps, they had diamond horse shoes, and Capewell nails. Hey, good enough for me, Yeah. And anyway, I went up to see John, and sure enough, he had a real nice store up there. I called up there before I went, and went in and met John and bought some supplies and stuff. And John and I talked, and John told me, he said, hey, young man, he said, why don't you plan on coming over here Wednesday evening and having supper with me and Kathy, and maybe we'll go to the shop and we'll bang around on some hot metal. And I was like, oh man, really? I would love that. A gee whiz, a farrier that knows how to make horseshoes and everything. I would love the opportunity to hang out with you for an evening. So anyway, I went back and oh, Jeremy, I should have showed you that shoe. I've got the shoe that John and I made. I've still got that in my shop. And it took like 3 different Wednesday nights, but I went up there that first Wednesday night. We made a toe bend, and John showed me how to do all that. And then I came back the next week, and we turned a branch and punched some nail holes. And anyway, within 3 weeks, I had this shoe made, and John and I became real good friends. And John introduced me to the TPFA, the AFA, and the TPFA, and told me the importance of certification and such. And so John and we traveled to a lot of the meetings together and stuff, and became good friends. And John took me from the young guy that just had some rusty tools in the back of his truck with a few rusty horseshoes, stuff I was buying at Davidson's Hardware, to what I do now. I pull a trailer, and I organized all that kind of all on John's wisdom, and to what I am today, to actually carrying stuff like pads and hoof packing and acrylics and different nails for different types of feet and such as that. He showed me what different shoes are all about. John was a huge impact on me, and I was very honored to be a pallbearer at his funeral.
Yeah, tremendous loss, and so many influential people that you mentioned that day, but his name, he certainly
he would be the one that grabs my heart first of all. And there's a lot of them out there that I've learned so much from.
And
Hank McEwen's another just have always thought the world of him. He had the horseshoeing school in Vernon, British Columbia forever. And Hank used to say, yeah, these young guys coming in to my school, they better be in shape when they get here, and they better know a little bit about horses when they get here. And Bob Marshall was another one. Bob Marshall was always a clown. He was so much fun to be around. And him and I, we've had, I've been to a couple of Bob Marshall clinics, and I don't know. I try during the day to keep everything on an upbeat. And even though, I mean, we're working on horses that, I mean, we have a huge responsibility with the horses we're working on, and what they're expected to do, and the amount of dollars that owners pay for them. And there's so many people that have so much at stake on this particular animal. And hey, we're in charge of making sure this horse is shod properly and going to stay sound. So huge responsibility. But with that being said, I do my best to keep everything light in the barn. And even though we're doing our job to the max, I still want everybody we want to keep things uplifted. And Bob Marshall is the same way. Everything is really to the books, but he's like having a darn pet coon that you let out of the cage and you're in the barn. He's so much fun.
Yeah, that was one of the things that struck me on the day is that you are dealing with these high pressure horses, and boy, you have a good time. Not making it people listening think that it's lighthearted, that you don't care, because certainly you read that article, you put a lot
not the case, yeah.
Right. But and then like I mentioned earlier, your team. And I think that's a big difference too, is the attitude and also having some good people you can rely on.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I'm really blessed there. And it's funny because sometimes Jayden, he'll be like, man, sometimes I don't know if you're serious or not. Because I'll say something like, hey, get over here and get me that. And then I'll kind of grin, but he'll be like, oh man, okay. So we always do try to have fun. I mean, it's either that or you'd be grumpy and serious, like, come on now, we're trying to shoe this high-end horse now. Let's get serious about this. Well, we can be serious about it, but then we can still, I mean, we'd go crazy if we didn't try to kind of keep things fun and make it. I mean, we got to look forward to this job every day, I mean, we just have to.
Yeah, it's like you said, there's harder jobs if you just want to be in a down mood.
Yeah.
And I was thinking back to the late Jack Miller, and I was talking to him about his role when he had to go in and those high pressure situations. And in the same way, your clients are relying on you to keep their horses sound, and that's, I think, a lot of pressure because of the dollars involved.
Exactly.
How do you keep that confidence? How do you not let that pressure get to you?
Man, yeah, on a serious note here, I mean, I come home some evenings and I'm like a pressure cooker. And my wife, I'm like, oh honey, wow, boy, today it was tough. It was a tough one today. And she's like, oh, I know. And sometimes it can, well, I'll tell you, I forget who it was. Oh, it was a world champion we shot just a while back. And you know what? I mean, I'm shaping these shoes and I can't even remember who was with me or where I was, but I remember it was what brings this story to mind is I had everything going, and I mean, inside I'm sweating bullets. I want this to all be perfect, and a lot riding on this situation. And I remember every nail I pulled off my magnet, I'd kiss that nail before I drove it. And I'd kiss that nail, kissed every nail before I drove it in that horse's feet, clinched him. And you know what? That horse went on, and I forget which one it was or what it won or whatever, but I remember that was really, I thought, yeah, I guess maybe I should start kissing every nail before I drive it. And I'm like, nah, I'm not going to do that. So it does. Yeah. The pressure, it's there. It's real. It really is. And, I guess it's just, when you shoe I don't mean that every horse is just as important as the other one, but let's say you're shoeing a ranch pony, and I still shoe a few of those. You know, if you get something an eighth of an inch out of balance, or a 16th of an inch here or there, it's not really, nobody's going to notice. Your neck's not on the line. You're not going to get in trouble for that. You strive for every job to be perfect. However, on some horses, you're not going to get in trouble if it's not just perfect. And those are the horses that I can get way back on my driving hammer, bam, 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 send those nails in and everything's good. But you know, the high-end horses, I think maybe I choke up on that hammer just a little bit more, and just take a little more time to make sure everything is just spot on. And so, you know, there is a difference. There is.
Yeah. Now you mentioned time. You know, you're very thorough. You watch the horse, you want to see it come out, you want to, you know, after your trim,
Right.
you know, and sometimes, if not that they're cutting corners, but most farriers I spend time with aren't as thorough. Was that something you always did, or how did you start building that into your daily practice?
You know, I think probably what comes to mind about that would have been back in the early days when I was in high school. Uh, the horse that comes to mind, I was shoeing a horse at a place, and nobody was there. And I whipped in there. I was in a hurry, and I tied that horse up to the lock fence, and I shod that horse. And then when I went to lead him back to the stall, I was just going to admire my work. You know, I led that horse back, and gee whiz, I mean, we had some sort of issue in the front end, and I was like, oh no, was this horse lame before I got him out of the stall and shot him, or is this something I caused? So I wound up pulling the shoes off that horse and checking everything and putting them back on. Called the owner when I got home that night, and he said, oh yeah, that horse, blah blah blah, he's been sore for the last couple of days. And I thought, oh man, I wish I would have known that before I started, you know, because I spent 30 minutes sweating bullets thinking that I made that horse lame. Well, okay, that taught me right then, when those horses come out of the stall, I want as much history as I can have on that animal, and I want to watch him walk. And I've just always done it this way. I take the horse from the groom or the trainer, and I watch him walk around. And then every now and then I'll hand the horse to one of my helpers and say, okay, take this horse and trot him off, or what, not too often, but sometimes I do. And then I analyze things. If I think, okay, this horse is sound, he's good to go. So I tie him up, and I'll trim him. Well, after I trim him, how am I going to know if that trim's not perfect unless I take him and lead him around a little bit more and watch him move and watch him step before I nail the shoes on? Because I promise you, at least half the time, maybe 75% of the time, after I trim one, I'm going to go back and touch up a little bit here or there to get my trim just the way I want it after I've watched him walk. After my initial trim, and hey, when I trim the foot the first time, I think it's perfect. When I set it down, I trim all 4 feet. So then when I walk them off, I'm like, aha, I see a little something I want to change here or there. So I change it all, and get him the way I want him. Then we figure out what kind of shoes we want to put on, and we put the shoes on. And then after Aaron or Jayton or Allie is done clinching, you know what? Before we put them back in the stall, I'll take them again, and I'll walk them up and down the hallway just to make sure everything's right. Because you know what? At that point, what if we did drive a bad nail, or we got soul pressure somewhere, or I see something I don't like? We can't put that horse back in the stall until he's perfect. So therefore, in my opinion, it takes 3 different times of analyzing that horse before you're happy with the shoeing and can put him back in the stall.
Yeah. And, you know, we'll talk about that gelding that day that started presenting a little sore, but, you know, first I think I should mention in you know, having good clients, and considering you've been working with Paula longer than your helpers have been alive.
Oh yeah, yeah, Miss Paula, she's a special lady. Matter of fact, we were back up there. I can't remember when. I think we've been so busy getting horses ready for the NCHA Summer Spectacular. I mean, it's been 7 days a week now for the last couple of weeks. The dust is just now settled the last couple of days here. We were at Paula's a few days ago, but I couldn't even tell you when. And we talked about you when we go up there too.
Yeah, she's a great lady, and
Great lady,
that makes the difference. I think if you're going to work for somebody for decades, you got to get along.
Man, yeah, we have been. I've been a part of her program for many years. Blessed to have her as a client.
Yeah,
really, and I'm glad it worked out to where it fell into where that's the place we got to go the day you were with me. Not that I've got tons of places that we could have went and had a real good time, and everybody would have been very accommodating. But Paula's the only one where we get donuts. So
yeah.
to get to go to Paula's and get donuts and have it be that personal is real. Made it real fun that day.
Yeah, I got on the scale. It's the only, usually I do enough walking around. I, maybe drop a little weight from burning enough calories on the day.
Right.
That's what I'm shooting for a living. I come back a little heavier.
Yeah, and we got to go to Mesquite Pit for lunch that day. That was good too.
Yeah. All right. But we did have that horse, and you're kind of keeping an eye on that gelding, and maybe walk us through that, and then let's hear how things turned out, because I think this is
guys. Yeah, that was Dream On. That was actually their stallion, and they bred several of their broodmares to that stallion this year. Dream On, that's one of their good show horses. And I've been shooting that horse this whole time, and that horse has never taken a lame step. Well, until he did. He kicked the stall. That was that's right. That was like a year ago. That horse kicked the stall, and we wound up he cracked his coffin bone on a hind foot, and we wound up putting a cuff shoe on him that I made, a steel cuff shoe. And then we got him over that, and he's been fine. And you remember the day you were with me, Jeremy, we got that horse out of the stall, and I don't know who got him out, but I took him and led him just like I always do. And I actually think that's one of the pictures you used in the journal with Dream On, and I'm leading Dream On.
Yeah.
And he was fine when we got him out, and trimmed him up. Everything's good. Put the salad bowl shoe on him. He was fine. And then when I led him off after we finished, I detected some soreness. I forget which front foot it was, but it was a front foot. And I think I took my testers and localized that to a certain spot, and made the decision that day, okay, we don't need to pull the shoe off, but I'm still feeling something right here. So we put a poultice. Mm-hmm. We put my packing on that. And they took that horse to the vet, I think 2 or 3 days later, and they dug an abscess out of that. I guess just with the trimming and the movement and everything and the hammering, we disturbed that abscess a little bit, and they pulled an abscess right on the, well, that would be back at the end of the heel, right in the little fish hook of the bar. There was an abscess in there that they drained out. So had I not been on my toes and analyzed that whole thing all the way through, that they might have found that 2 or 3 days later. And then, by then it could have been worse. And I just, to be able to find that and be a part of the team and help them along like that, I think that's a huge part of my job. It's a big responsibility, but it's a big part of my job to help with lameness issues like that.
And how's Dream On doing now?
Dream On, yeah, they wound up. Dr. Charlie Buchanan drained that abscess, and they put at that point, by the time they drained it, they put Ectomol on it for one more day, and then wrapped it. And then after that, they put iodine on that for I don't know, maybe just a few more days. And then no pad needed, nothing. The iodine dried it all up enough to where the horse went right back in the show pen, and he was good. So it wasn't a very big abscess, but darn sure enough to make him sore.
Sure. Well, glad it worked out. And
yeah,
that's why I think these live sessions are good, because I'm sure some readers wanted to find out what happened there.
Yeah, because they look at that and go, well, hey, they talked about that horse that was lame. what they wind up doing with that one, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So,
But,
yeah.
um, I think there's a few things that probably caught people's eyes. The jig you set up for your angle grinder for one. I think that was a neat one.
Mhm.
We threw in some of your work with making the spurs for
Yeah,
John,
for
and
Jonathan.
wish we would have had shown some of the other stuff you had in your shop.
Uh,
If people are interested, we did do a video with Tommy. If you go to AFJ TV on YouTube, you can check that out. But the poultice, since you brought it up,
mhm.
I'm sure that grabbed some people's eye of your packing mixture.
Oh,
What
the
goes into it?
packing that I use.
Yeah.
Yeah, the packing that I use, I've used an array of everything. I used to use just pine tar and oakum under a pad. I've used silicone under a pad. Then I went through a phase and I used Corona, just Corona and oakum, and then Corona and cotton. And I used to buy the cotton in the big rolls and put Corona in the foot and then pull some cotton out and put the cotton on top of it and put the shoe on, and the cotton kind of holds everything together. And then when you come back in 6 weeks and pull the shoe off, then the cotton's held everything in there and it molds in there and works real nice. To my experience, cotton works a lot better than oakum. Oakum tends to leave some bumpy spots in there, and you can wind up with some hot spots on the foot because the oakum's so coarse. But anyway, I don't know. I just one night I dreamed it up. I thought, hey, I think I'm going to take a can of pine tar, and I'm going to take a can of Venice turpentine, and I'm going to take a can of Corona ointment, and I'm going to mix it all together. And then I'm going to put some copper sulfate in it just to so the bacteria won't form underneath the pad. And in that way, even if there's thrush, I can use this same packing on the thrush too, and it'll make the frog look better. And then I thought, well, now it's too thin. What am I going to do now? And you think, okay, well, you watch your mother make gravy in the kitchen forever growing up, and she put flour in milk in the gravy and made it nice and thick. So heck, I came and I got a bag of just flour, and I got all this stuff. These three cans of pine tar and Venice turpentine and Corona. I've got it all poured on a piece of newspaper or a feed sack. Mix it all together, and put your copper sulfate in it. Then just start folding flour into it, just household flour. Start folding it in until it becomes a paste, and it's a real nice paste. And it works great. And you can take that and you can put it on a thrushy frog and put a pad over it. Oh man, that you come back in 6 weeks and you can pair all that real nice. And not to say it's cured the thrush completely, depending on how bad the thrush was, but you're well on the way of fixing. I mean, that has proven to me to be a real good hoof packing.
Yeah.
And instead of using the cotton anymore, I go to Walmart and I buy those little 3-inch oval. They're pure cotton, but it's a face pad that you buy in the beauty department, and you can take one of those little 3-inch face pads and put your mixture on the sole, and then put your face pad over that, and then put your shoe and pad on top of all that, and that little face pad holds all that in there real nice. And they're so handy and tidy to use, and it's simple to do. And when you take the shoe off after 6 weeks, all that's still in there real good. And you even have to take the back of your hoof knife, and you kind of got to dig to get it all, out from the crease in the frog and everything. It holds in there real nice. And that's proven to me to be a real good hoof packing.
Yeah. When I know some of you are watching this, maybe you've seen the article there. Of course, we're not going to be able to include all the photos from the day, but I'll include some pictures. So if you want to check out the recorded session, we are recording this. And when it goes live tomorrow, I'll throw some more images into this so you can check those out and maybe pause it and see a little bit more detail. And then when we got toward the end of the day, we stopped over at Dawson, and another great facility, great clients.
Mhm.
But what I think kind of helped loop things all together is, you're showing us some of your work with sliding plates, and
Mhm.
mentioned back when you were at a well shod clinic and having breakfast with Danny Anderson, and
Yeah.
earlier you mentioned the TPFA. I mean, it
Uh-huh.
just shows you can't be isolated in this industry. You got to spend time with other farriers, and here it is, just a conversation over breakfast gave you a tip
Mhm.
that's going to save you time.
Correct. Yeah, we, I mean, yeah, I mean, every clinic that I've been involved with, the first thing I do is mention the importance. I mean, I might give a little biography about myself to introduce myself, but then I always tell everybody the importance of watching videos just like this. Go into every TPFA function you can go to, all the AFA, don't isolate yourself, stay active. I think isolation for a farrier would be the worst disease that a farrier could ever do to his practice. Farriers advance from being together and learning from each other. And so, with that being said, I mean, I'm going to a Danny Anderson clinic in Amarillo at Wellshod, and that morning I'm getting breakfast, all excited about going out to Wellshod. We're at the hotel, and dadgum, I mean, who's dishing up his plate next to me? Danny Anderson right there. So I'm like, hey, Danny, I come to looking forward to this clinic today. We sat down, and he'd mentioned the day before but before he could leave, he had to stop by one place, and he had to drill out a hole because one of his reined cow horses, they'd fouled one of the screw in caulk holes on the sliding plate, and he had to pull that sliding plate off and drill another hole and re-drill the hole so they could take the horse to a show. And I told him, I said, Danny, I said, yeah, drill two holes in each heel. I said, that way if they foul one hole at the show, because they're in a hurry. I mean, one class is over and they've got their screw gun picked up and they're trying to screw two screws into the heels of a shoe for herd work, and they might over torque one. They do it all the time and strip out the threads or twist it off. And hey, if there's another fresh hole right there, then they can still get a screw in there and get the horse right back in the arena for their herd work and fence work.
Yeah.
So Danny was like, yeah, two holes in each heel. That's pretty cool. Yeah, let's do that. So when we got to the clinic, Danny, that was part of his material that day was mentioned. We talked about that, and everybody's like, hey, that's a great idea. That really works good. And as far as the sliding, when the horse is doing its reined work, with having two holes in there instead of one, I've never had any trainers complain and say, well, that's causing too much traction to have that other little hole in there when we're doing our reining. So hey, man, drill two holes in each heel and let's go from there. And I mean, it's just so common for us to drill two holes in each heel now. Works good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You never know where those tips will come from. And, here's
Yeah.
just sharing good ideas over breakfast.
Oh man, yeah. For us, that little 15-minute visit we had about that part of our conversation about drilling the holes, four instead of two, we probably passed that along that day to 50 different farriers that they could go, hey, yeah, that's a good idea. And then of course there's a lot of the old veterans that probably know a whole lot more about it than even me and Danny, that are out there spreading their word too. And that's all huge and a real good thing. That's what keeps us all honed and able to where we can still do a good job on every horse we shoot.
Yeah. It's nice to see. I think a lot of industries don't have the same camaraderie farriers do, and especially
Yeah.
what you guys have down there with the TPFA of people you might
Mhm.
look as competitors sharing ideas just to help each other's business.
Oh man, yeah, it's kind of like athletes and good sportsmanship.
Right.
It'd be no different, you know, than a bulldogger backing in the box, and two guys he's competing with, they're standing right there making sure he's going to get out and get his steer down and try to win, and then he's going to do the same thing for them. You know, as farriers, we need to try to help each other win too. It's going to help all of us.
Yeah. What do you like to plug the extra holes with?
You know what? With the 3/8 holes, which are the big common holes that we drill for like big screw in caulks. I'll stuff just a little bit of rubber, just I don't know, like maybe a piece of insulation off a your winter rubber insulation. It's like a foam, just a little piece of sponge, stick in the hole. But here's the beauty of using the number 12 self-tapping screws. You drill a 3/8 hole, you countersink it just a little bit, and then go ahead and thread it with a number 12 self-tapping screw. Thread it, cut the back of the screw off. So then you just got a little quarter-inch shank on the bottom of your head of your number 12 screw. You don't let them fill up with dirt, and then you just put that on a screw gun and hold it right over dirt, and all it'll go right in the hole with dirt and everything in it. You don't have to pack that with anything. They're so simple and easy, and hence with the dirt in there might be one reason too. They twist them off, but I mean those guys, they pick it up. They're not going to try to pick that little piece of dirt out of there. Screw the hole, stick the screw gun up there and drive it in there, and it works just like 99% of the time. It'll work perfect.
Yeah. And you know, I think you were really thorough that day for pointing out a lot of different stuff you were doing. You know, at the end of the day, was there anything you said you thought after I left of, boy, I wish I would have shared this, or some things I didn't cover?
Oh man, probably. I can't think of it. I mean, I was so tickled that we did get to come back here and make that make a bar shoe, because that's one thing I didn't cover that day was welding, and I would have liked us to have the opportunity and maybe do something like that on a live horse. And I never really thought about it till we were at lunch that day, thinking, oh man, we didn't really cover this this heart bar shoe thing with a horse, but at least we can go back to the shop and make one and we won't have a live horse there. But it would have been fun to have had a live horse there and made a heart bar shoe to fit up and show exactly how I put the frog pressure on and such as that. And Dick Becker, he's really good with heart bars too. We were talking about him earlier.
But I'll tell you what, Tommy, I sure had a good time that day, and real appreciative that not only you let me come out, but you usually start at 5 a.m. You took it easy on me. We started at 6, but I had a ball that day with you and your whole team there.
Well, thank you, because we had a really good time you coming out, and you know, I don't know, I maybe I should have slowed down a little bit, but with that being said, I'm glad you got to see how we move along, and we're very, very thorough with every horse, but we don't jack around. We really move from horse to horse in a very rapid mode. Yeah. So I'm glad you kind of got to see how we work and how our system goes.
Absolutely. I'm glad you didn't change that too much, but again, thank you to you for letting me interrupt for the day.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. You come anytime.
All right. Well, I think we had a good time tonight. We got a couple of updates, and appreciate all of you for tuning in and watching this. And Tommy, looking forward to seeing you down the road. Hope I'll see you at the AFA convention this November.
You will.
Absolutely. So if anybody's going to be there, maybe you'll see Tommy down there at the convention, at the trade show, or somewhere else in Arlington this November. Check it out. You go find that on the American Farriers Association's website. But again, thank you to Tommy. Thank you to everybody who watched tonight, and looking forward to seeing everybody down the road. All right, take care.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.